Hope everyone's doing well today. My name is Meredith with East Coast. Today, I just want to go over a new bill that was signed here in California last week called SB 9. And really, it changes the way of what you can do with your single family lot here in California. Obviously, there's certain restrictions and rules and codes and setbacks and whatnot you have to abide by, which we're all going to go over that kind of briefly today. But I did kind of want to highlight it and go through. I did find a good article that I've kind of been searching online. Obviously, I read through the bill, but I wanted to find a good article that kind of broke it down in bullet points. That way, it's kind of easy to read. I'm going to go through this. You can see here it's Holland and Knight who wrote this. It's on jdsupra.com. I'll put the link below so you guys can all scroll through this as well. But pretty much, like I said, I'm just going to go through SB 9. There was SB 10 that was passed too, which is another big housing pro-development law. But again, this is just going to cover SB 9. I'll do a video on SB 10 shortly after, but let's get to it, okay? So highlights, California Governor Gavin Newsom signed into law Senate Bill 9, a landmark law that would allow for ministerial approval of certain housing development projects containing up to 2 dwelling units, which would be duplexes on single family zone parcels. So as you know, many of you can already build ADUs, but this changes as far as 2 units wouldn't be considered an ADU, it'd be 2 dwelling units, not accessory dwelling units. So that's the difference there. In addition to permitting 2 units on a single family lot, the proposed legislation would allow qualifying lot splits to be approved ministerially, which means basically without discretionary review or hearings, pursuant to a parcel map upon meeting a number of criteria. So they are going to let you lot split a single family lot. Again, it has to match a certain number of criteria. So it's not like all your neighbors are going to do lot splits and they're going to demolish their homes and build duplexes. It's not going to happen that way. Obviously, the law is designed to create more housing, but also a way to prevent every single lot here from being split and turned into duplexes. That's not the point of it. So we'll go through some of the details later on in this article, but again, just wanted to kind of point that out to you guys. So this Holland and Knight alert reviews key requirements of the new law and provides considerations to help single-family homeowners and developers understand SB 9, its qualifying criteria, and implication on future projects. So again, here it just kind of goes through, what it talks about. I already kind of basically told you guys what it summarizes here. We'll go down to the qualifying projects. So what qualifies a project in regards of SB 9? So SB 9 would allow housing development projects containing no more than 2 dwelling units on a single family zone parcel to be permitted on a ministerial basis upon satisfaction of a number of qualifying criteria that include the following. So here's some of the main criteria that we want to point out to you guys. First one, the project's site is in a city or urbanized portion of an unincorporated county. So again, they want this in areas that need housing. So that would be city, more densely populated areas. So that's bullet point number 1. Right here, number 2, the project site is not within a coastal zone, prime farmland, or farmland of statewide importance. Wetlands within a very high fire severity zone, a hazardous waste zone or hazardous list site within a delineated earthquake fault zone, within a 100-year flood zone, within a floodway, identified for conservation or an adopted natural community, habitat for prospective species, or lands under conservation, excuse me. So pretty much they're saying, hey, not with any of these protected areas, you cannot do this lot split or build the two units, okay? Third bullet point here, the project site also cannot require demolition or alteration of any housing if 1, the housing is restricted affordable housing, 2, the subject to rent control, and 3, contains tenant occupied housing in the last 3 years. So this is big. Again, you cannot do anything associated with SB 9 if any of these are a part or associated with your current property, okay? I think the big one here is contains tenants occupied housing in the last 3 years. A lot of properties are going to disqualify for this reason only, okay? Next bullet point, the project site cannot be withdrawn from a rental market. So under the Ellis Act within the past 15 years, okay? The project does not propose demolition for more than 25% of the existing exterior walls unless either A, the local ordinance allows more demolition, or B, the site has not been occupied by a tenant in the last 3 years. Okay, again, that's going to come into play here for a lot of properties. Next bullet point, the project site is not within a historic district or property included in the California Historic Resources Inventory or within the site that is designated or listed as a city or county landmark or historic property. So again, kind of like the one we talked about up here, if it does have that historic significance, again, you can't alter that property. The city or county or whatever jurisdiction's in charge is going to restrict you from doing anything with SB 9, okay? Next one, a local agency may impose objective zoning, subdivision, and design review standards, providing such objective standards do not preclude the construction of either of the 2 units being less than 800 square feet in floor area, okay? No setbacks are required for an existing structure or structure constructed in the same location and to the same dimensions as an existing structure. In other circumstances, the local agency may require 4-foot side and rear setbacks. So if you build an existing, or if you build a new structure out of what the existing structure was, and it didn't have, let's say it was on a 0 lot line, it didn't have setbacks, they're going to allow you to build on that 0 lot line or wherever that previous existing structure was. That's what that says there, okay? Parking of no more than 1 space per dwelling unit is allowed, except no parking required for projects A within a half-mile walking distance of a high-quality transit corridor or a major transit stop, or B within 1 block of car share. People don't realize a lot of properties all over Southern California qualify just for this reason. A bus stop counts, train stop, subway. I know we don't have a lot of subways here, but a bus stop does count for that, okay? Next one, local agency may deny such a housing development project if there is a written finding that the project would create a specific adverse impact upon public health and safety or the physical environment that there is no way to mitigate, okay? So I don't know off the top of my head an example there, but I'm sure I could find some if I brainstorm. I want to make this as short as possible for you guys. Next one, the rental of any unit created must be for a long-term, longer than 30 days. So no Airbnb, unless, again, you can do Airbnb, but it's got to be over 30 days. Same thing with ADUs. Next one, the California Coastal Act still applies, except that no public hearing is required for the coastal development permits for housing developments pursuant to this legislation. Okay. A local agency may not be required to permit any accessory dwelling unit or junior ADU in addition to the second unit if there is a lot split. Okay. So they don't have to permit it if you do a lot split on that single family lot. Okay. A local agency may not reject housing solely on the basis that a project proposes adjacent or connected structures, provided that the structures meet building code safety standards and are sufficient to allow separate conveyance, okay? So they're basically saying, hey, as long as it meets the requirements, you're good to go. If this criteria is satisfied, the local agency must approve the project ministerially, so without discretionary review or hearings, which a lot of projects need, depending on what city or where you're located within that city. Projects approved ministerially are not subject to the California Environmental Quality Act. That's pretty big here. You can kind of skip that. Lot splits. So this would be the next section. I know it's going to be a big question for a lot of you. So in addition to permitting 2 units on a single family lot, the proposed legislation would allow qualifying lot splits to be approved ministerially pursuant to a parcel map upon meeting a number of criteria, including many of the same criteria for the 2 units described above. So we'll go through some of the criteria here real fast. Each parcel must be at least 40% of the original parcel size. So you can't go any smaller than that. You're going to have to do at least 40%, okay? Each parcel must be at least 1,200 square feet in lot size, unless the local agency permits a smaller lot size per an ordinance, okay? There cannot be a sequential lot split on the same parcel, nor there can be a lot split if the owner of the parcel being subdivided or someone working in concert with that owner has subdivided an adjacent parcel pursuant to this lot split legislation. Okay. Next one, no right-of-way dedication or off-site improvement may be required. The parcel must be limited to residential use, so you can't build commercial stuff in a residential zoned area. That still applies. The affidavit that the applicant intends to use one of the housing units as principal residence for at least 3 years from the date of approval is required. So this is huge. Again, it goes back to, you know, a lot of people think all your neighborhoods are going to get turned in, you know, to lot splits and duplexes on each. That's not true. This is a big part of what's going to deter that. So what this means is you have to sign an affidavit stating that you're going to live in one of the units for 3 years if you do a lot split like this. So again, not everybody can do that. There are certain people or certain investors that don't mind doing that. But again, it's not like every single neighborhood is going to do this because of these certain requirements. Again, that's a pretty big one. Next one below there is the local agency shall not require a condition that requires correction of non-conforming zoning conditions. Below that, for each parcel created through this legislation, a local agency is not required to permit more than 2 dwelling units on a parcel. So they can limit you at 2, okay? Local agency may require as conditions of approval easements for public services and facilities. So you're always going to need access to easements or public right-of-way, which is the second one here, access to public right-of-way, okay? In addition to these increase in density in single-family zones and lot splits in single-family zones, SB 9 would increase the extension of a map life from 12 months to 24 months and would allow 4 years of extensions in lieu of 3 years for subdivision maps with off-site improvements above qualifying. So again, I don't want to go into too much detail. That's kind of the basics of what this covers. Down here, there's kind of a conclusion and synopsis. One interesting thing that hasn't come up, which is going to come up, which they note down here, is the lending side of it. If you do a lot split and you have a loan on it, how is that going to play out? Again, we can kind of go through that down here. I'll connect that link in the video below, so you guys can kind of read through that. But it's just something interesting to think about. Again, this is ever-changing landscape in California. Our goal is to adapt to what the current laws are and figure out how we can best help people, whether they're homeowners, investors, to the best of their ability to, pretty much take advantage of these laws. So hopefully it went through and explained a little bit for you guys. If you have any questions, feel free to comment below. We'll put out another video on SB 10, but if you guys don't have any questions for me, that's it. And we'll chat soon. Thanks.